Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Sawadee Krab. Nice to see all of you guys. Today is our group learning program, and on Sundays and Wednesdays, what I'm doing is I'm helping students to build a foundation in the path to enlightenment, helping you to understand this journey to getting to the enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy permanently. It's a permanent mental state that you can attain in this life through training of the mind. On Sundays, what I do is I go chapter by chapter in this book, and it's called Developing a Life Practice, the Path That Leads to Enlightenment. You can actually get this for free by downloading it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon. And each Sunday I go chapter by chapter by chapter. This Sunday I'm going to be in chapter 6, which is titled The Middle Way, Walking the Middle Way. It's going to help you to understand this teaching of the Buddha called the Middle Way. And then what I do on Wednesdays is I do meditation with students, and then I just open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the path to enlightenment. Because what the Buddha did is during his lifetime, he figured out how to train his mind to be able to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any anger or sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind. And this is accomplished through training of the mind. So one of the ways that we start our classes is we start with meditation. So I'm going to guide you guys in a meditation session to help us get started. And then afterwards, what I'll do is I'll just share a little bit of a taste of the teachings of the Buddha with you. And then I'm just going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the teachings and related to the things that you guys might be interested to ask questions about. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start this is I start with some chanting. We ease into meditation doing the chanting. And if you'd like to see these chants, we have them on a laminated sheet on the table there. You guys can hand those out if you like. You'll see that there's the Pali language that we chant in. Whenever we're chanting, it's important to understand the origins of the chanting. That during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory because everything that he taught was oral. They used chanting as a way to commit them to memory so that they could actually practice the teachings. So when we're chanting these chants, it's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. There's nothing mystical or magical going on when you're chanting these chants. Today, what we use them for is we use them to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, they were used in order to commit the teachings to memory. And if you look at the English translations of the chants, you're going to see a lot of respect and gratitude and admiration for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha actually created these chants himself at all, because a Buddha doesn't walk around saying, here, chant these things to me out of respect for me, because he would have eliminated his arrogance and his ego. He wouldn't have put himself above others and looked down on people. So I suspect his students probably created these either during his life or after his death, because if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and the frustration and the stress and anxiety to this peaceful and joyful mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you, they didn't expect anything from you, you would probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. Because the Buddha was just helping his students out of the kindness of his heart to be able to learn how to get to this enlightened mental state. So we chant these chants in order to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. And then after the chanting, you're going to hear me come in with some guidance. I'm going to be guiding you in what's called breathing mindfulness meditation. There's a short little session where we're going to do breathing mindfulness meditation. And then I'm going to come in with guidance for loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that helps you to eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, frustration, agitation, annoyance. Even if you have like negative self-talk in your mind where you're like degrading and diminishing yourself, this meditation will help to transform that. So we're going to come in with these affirmations. You're going to hear me saying these things out loud, and then you would like to just repeat that within your own mind on the out breath. And then after the loving kindness meditation, we're going to go back to the breathing mindfulness meditation, and then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. So you guys are welcome to join along in this, and you'll hear me guiding you through the meditation. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. He taught seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times in your journey to enlightenment because you're going to need them, because you can't always be in the same position to be able to meditate in. So We usually start off in the seated position. This is where a lot of people are learning, in the seated position. So I'll give you guys some guidance in the seated position, but understand that there isn't just one way to sit, that you should find whatever's comfortable for you. So my guidance here is just to help you and give you ideas of how you could sit to make it more comfortable, but you find whatever's comfortable for you. So if you're on the floor or in a chair, maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like that. If you're on the floor, you usually have some cushions under your rear to kind of make your seat nice and soft. Then you would like to lightly cross your legs. If your legs are real tight, it's going to impede the circulation. So you'd like your legs to just be lightly crossed. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets their hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and it allows the circulation to flow in the lower body. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If you would like to use this, you can, but again, it's not about everyone doing it the same way. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you find whatever is comfortable for you with your hands and arms. And that goes for anyone who's maybe in a chair or in a wheelchair or a sofa or a bench or a couch. You can sit however you're comfortable. Oftentimes people sit with their feet either flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me, I'm sitting in a chair with my legs crossed, so you could even do that as well. And then the same thing with your hands and arms, you can just put them wherever you're comfortable. It's helpful if the upper body is erect. By having the upper body erect, it keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. So with your sternum up and your shoulders back, not only does it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose as we're doing our meditation. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on, and then I'll come back in with some guidance during the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in naturally through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, neighbors, and co-workers all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have harmed me be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโพตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys here at the temple. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. For those of you guys that it's maybe your first time here, I'll share a few things with you to help you understand the temple and kind of help you feel even more comfortable than you already are. Is that up here in our temporary classroom, as you guys can see, we're upgrading downstairs to make a nicer classroom for you guys. Up here in our temporary classroom, we have 2 bathrooms that you guys are welcome to help yourself to at any time. This first door here, this is a bathroom. And then the last door all the way in the back as you first come up the steps, that's a bathroom as well. You're welcome to help yourself to those as you like. Even outside the classroom, there's bathrooms as well. If you go out to the parking lot, you'll see signs that take you around to the main temple bathroom. So you can use those at any time that you like. And then over here on this table, we have refreshments that's provided by our students. You can have water, and there's sometimes snacks over there as well. So feel free to help yourself to any of those things that are over there. So as I mentioned, today's class, we do meditation, and then I open up to any and all questions that you guys have. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a taste of what the teachings of the Buddha are all about. And then after that, I'll just open up to any and all questions that you guys have. If you'd like to ask questions, we have microphones in the white bowl in front of the camera. It's important to use a microphone because we have people joining us online. And if you use a microphone, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you spoke here without a microphone, nobody would be able to hear you online. If you get a microphone, you just press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on, and you just hold it up to your chin, and then we'll be able to hear you here, and they'll be able to hear you online. And then you can just keep these microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone else around you might have a question, and you can share the microphones. We have plenty of microphones. You can send them out throughout the group, and you guys can share them amongst yourselves. And then for anybody who's online, if you guys would like to ask questions, you can put your question into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. section, and I'll be able to see that and answer your question for you. And if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like. So the teachings of the Buddha are here to guide you towards training your mind and accomplishing what's called enlightenment, where your mind can actually experience this enlightened mental state. When the mind is enlightened, you've uprooted certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. There's 10 individual pollutions. They're referred to as the 10 fetters. They're referred to as the fetters because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were a criminal, they would attach a fetter to your ankle. And this is how they would keep you confined to a certain area. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells, we put them in prison, things like this. During the lifetime of the Buddha in ancient times, they would attach a shackle and a chain and a ball around your ankle. And then you would basically be in this field and you would be trapped and confined in that particular area. So when the Buddha discovered these pollutions in the mind and then the tools and techniques of how to eliminate them, he referred to them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped in the unenlightened state. What you're experiencing because of these pollutions is you're experiencing anger and sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are being caused by these fetters in the mind. You can actually uproot these and eliminate them. And you'll see that this is actually working because you'll see the mind becoming more peaceful and more joyful. So the teachings of the Buddha, it's not about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually learning now. You're examining his teachings. You're investigating them now in this life. And then you're reflecting on them to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you're integrating his teachings into your day-to-day life, practicing the teachings, things like meditation, but other things as well. And as you're practicing these teachings and you're uprooting the pollutions out of your mind, this is where you see the peace and the joy starting to shine through. You'll see these benefits of the enlightened mind starting to come through as you're eliminating these pollutions. You'll see the peacefulness, calmness, serenity, contentedness, and joy. You'll see the mind is focused. It has concentration and clarity and deep memory. Because as long as you have pollutions in your mind's not going to perform very well. And you're going to see that you lack concentration. You have a lack of ability to remember things. You'll notice that when you get to enlightenment, your personal and your professional relationships are really blossoming. Right now, you probably have certain challenges in some of your relationships. There might be bitterness and hostility and harshness in your relationships. But you can completely transform this by training your own mind. It's not the other person that you need to change. You need to change your own mind. And by changing your own mind, you can actually see the improvement to your day-to-day life and how your mind functions, but also in your relationships. They'll really be blossoming. They'll be at ease. You'll have harmony in all your relationships. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even be in a bad mood anymore because the causes and conditions that produce that have been uprooted from the mind. You'll notice that the mind's cheerful, that it's bright and it's glad, that you'll have this radiance and this brightness shining through in the mind. So this is a little bit about what enlightenment is. The way that this is accomplished is through training of the mind. The Buddha figured out in a way that you can independently verify what's causing these feelings, the anger, the sadness, the frustration, and all those other feelings. He figured it out, and then he explained what's causing these feelings, and then you can learn that, you can reflect on it to independently verify it, and then you can practice in order to train your mind. What he essentially figured out is that what's causing the mind to experience these feelings is craving, desire, attachment, wants and expectations, longing and yearning. Now, when the mind is longing and yearning for things and it gets what it wants, it feels happy or excited or elated. There's pleasant feelings that the mind experiences. But then when the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed. It becomes bitter and harsh and hostile. What you might notice is when you're becoming angry or frustrated, you might be thinking that something external is causing this. You might be thinking it's your mom or dad or your brothers or sisters or your friends or coworkers. And what you might be doing is you might be pushing people out of your life. When you're pushing people out of your life or you're pushing the situation out of your life, you're not actually solving the problem because that's not the actual cause of the problem. If this was the actual cause, when you push people out of your life, you would be completely peaceful and joyful. But you can see that's not the case, that when you push people out of your life, you still become frustrated and annoyed. Or the other thing you might do when you don't understand what the real problem is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And as you're doing that, people are going to potentially go away from you. It damages your relationships at the least, but oftentimes people leave out of your life when you're being bitter and harsh and hostile towards them. Or you might be putting your expectations on people, trying to control people and get people to do things your way. Because the mind, with its lack of wisdom, thinks if people just do it my way, everything would be fine. So the way that you can see that your mind is causing these feelings based in craving, desire, attachment, the mind is essentially craving permanence, is you can take some examples from your own life and you can see this yourself. So if you think back to when you had that boyfriend or girlfriend, when you guys first got together, you were so happy, you were so excited. Right? You got this new person in your life. They're showing you attention. They're showing you affection. You're going to the movies. You're going to dinner. You might be going to the park. You might be having great conversations. You might be even having sexual contact and having intimacy. And wow, everything's so pleasurable at the beginning, right? But then over time, you started expecting things from them. You started wanting things from them. And they couldn't fulfill what you wanted all the time. And they wanted things from you. They wanted and expected you to do certain things, and you couldn't do that for them all the time. And now you guys might have became angry or frustrated at each other, and now you broke up and you ended the relationship. And now when you ended the relationship, you might have been angry or frustrated or agitated. You might have been lonely or bored. You might have been missing this person. This is because the mind's craving permanence, wanting this relationship to be permanent. But yet you live in an impermanent world. Everything around you is constantly changing. You won't be able to see anything around you that is permanent. Everything's constantly changing all the time. But the mind craves permanence. And you might actually think it's your love that's causing your anger and your frustration. But love doesn't cause anger. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And if you can have love for someone, then you would like to see them be well, right? But that's not what's causing the anger. What's causing the anger is the mind is wanting something. And if it gets it, it gets happy or excited. And if it doesn't get it, it gets angry or frustrated. Think back to when you were a child. If you went to your parents and you're saying, Mommy, Daddy, can I have chocolate? Can I have ice cream? Please, please give me chocolate and ice cream. They might have said, sure, here you go. And then you got your chocolate and ice cream and you were so happy, right? You thought this was the best mommy and daddy ever. But then in some situation, you asked them, Mommy, Daddy, can I have chocolate ice cream? Can I have chocolate ice cream? And they said no. And then you're like, you're angry, you're frustrated. It's because the mind's craving that chocolate and ice cream, wanting it to be permanent, wanting it regularly. Or think to a certain item that you might have had, a brand new item, like a brand new car. If you worked really hard for this brand new car, you saved up all your money, you went and purchased it, you drove it to the store, you went inside, you parked it, and you came outside, and you saw a scratch on your car, you might be frustrated, you might be angry, you might be irritated. It's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car. That's not what's causing the frustration. What's causing the frustration is the mind is craving permanence. It's wanting this car to look permanently beautiful. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise in this situation, because when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But the fact is that this car is impermanent. The paint's going to fade, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. And as long as your mind's craving permanence, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get irritated or annoyed when you're experiencing impermanence, because this car is impermanent. Think back to a time where maybe you were going on a trip, maybe even to Thailand, and you were so excited to go to Thailand. You just couldn't wait to get there. You were so excited, or maybe some other place. And you showed up to the airport and your flight's delayed or it's canceled. If you would have got on that flight, you would have been so happy. But because you didn't get on the flight when you were wanting to get on the flight, the mind was angry or frustrated or annoyed. These flights are impermanent. The airplanes are impermanent. They can't all fly on time. There's going to be weather delays. There's going to be maintenance issues, crew issues, things like this. It's going to happen. So as long as your mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way, when the mind gets what it wants, it's going to get happy. But when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets these painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So what the Buddha figured out is that your mind is causing your own discontent feelings. And that might be hard to come to terms with, because right now you might be firmly believing that it's other people that are causing these feelings. You've probably been in arguments where you've been adamantly arguing with somebody, trying to convince them that what they had to do is stop doing what they were doing because it was making you angry and they needed to stop doing that. But you can't go around the world and train 8 billion people to do things your way. It's just not possible. It's just impossible, right? So what you need to be able to do in order to get to the peace and the joy is train your mind. And that's what the Buddha did. And that's why the Buddha was able to get to peace and joy. He didn't go around the world and train everybody else to do things his way. He didn't implement rules and commandments and a bunch of rituals and ceremonies and prayer and worship and things like this. He didn't teach you a bunch of beliefs. Instead, what he did is he explained to you this natural world around you. He didn't explain the way the world should be, and then if everybody follows certain rules or commandments, then the world will become a peaceful place. He explained to you the way the world is. Because when you don't understand the way the world is, then you're going to function in the world in a way that you're going to have struggles and difficulties. If your mind is craving permanence, but yet you live in an impermanent world, then you're going to keep having frustration and irritation and annoyance over and over and over again. So the Buddha is teaching you to awaken to the wisdom of the natural laws of existence so that you can see how the world actually functions through these natural laws. Just like the natural law of gravity, we lacked wisdom of this natural law as we were growing up and we struggled with it and we fell down, we hurt ourselves, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, and we were really upset. We struggled and had difficulties with this natural law of gravity. We slowly but surely learned wisdom of this natural law. And as we did, we started being able to navigate the world more peacefully. By the time we were 10, 12, 14 years old, we were able to navigate the world with the natural law of gravity because we fully awoke to this natural law. And now we made wiser decisions. Like, for example, this cup of water that I have here, I don't put it in front of me because I know I'll knock it over, and it's only a matter of time. Not because somebody told me to, not because it's a rule or a commandment, but I choose to put it behind me because I know that's a wise decision so it doesn't get knocked over. Whereas if I put it in front of me, based on the natural law of gravity, it's going to get knocked over at some point, right? So you make wiser decisions when you understand a natural law. That's why we can climb ladders, we can ride bicycles, we tie our shoes a little bit tighter, we look at the surface of the sidewalk so we don't walk around so giddy like a child anymore. So we know that, hey, if we do that, it's going to result in us falling down and having struggles. So we make wiser decisions because we understand the world that we live in. We understand the natural law of gravity. So there's these other natural laws that the mind is unaware of, that the Buddha figured out through his own wisdom. And then he teaches it to you in a way that you can independently verify for yourself. And that's what his teachings are about. When we talk about awakening to enlightenment, you're awakening to the wisdom of these natural laws. And you're not believing them. You're learning, examining, and investigating. You're reflecting on them to independently verify them. And then you're practicing and training your mind, making wiser and wiser decisions that you'll experience more and more wholesome outcomes or wholesome results. So I'm going to stop here and just open up to any and all questions that you guys would like to ask. You can ask questions about anything you're seeing in the Buddhist world, about books that you're reading, about things that you're seeing here in Thailand. If you have personal challenges that you're struggling with, certain things in your relationships or your own life, and you have questions about those, you're more than welcome to ask those. Because what the Buddha does is he focuses you on cultivation of wisdom and you gaining the wisdom that you need to function through these natural laws. So I can help you to understand certain aspects and certain struggles that you're encountering, and I can explain to you how to resolve that through an understanding of these natural laws. So normally what I do on other days when I'm actually teaching through classes and courses and retreats is I will teach for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I will open up for questions. I'll teach another 15, 20, 30 minutes, open up to questions. And we have various courses and retreats where I do that, and I guide you through developing an understanding of the teachings of the Buddha. But on Wednesdays, I just do meditation with you guys, give you a little bit of a taste of the teachings, and then I just open up to whatever questions you guys have. So if you guys have questions, remember we have the microphones here, and for those of you guys online, you can use the comment section of Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So is there anybody here or online that has a question? if we can get a microphone, we can pass one back to you as well. If you have trouble coming up. Oh, there's a little place for you to walk. There you go. There's a little gray button. You just press that, and then the lights will come on. You can take it back to your seat with you if you like.
Yeah, I got it.
And then, because there might be other people that can use it as well.
What does the Buddha say in relation to moving away from painful situations where you're experiencing like fear or anger, or like moving out of really bad situations rather than trying to deal with them? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is the microphone on?
No.
Just tap it. If it's not on, it's okay. I'll repeat your question.
Is it on now? Can you tell if it's on when I'm speaking?
There you go. Now it's on.
Can you? Oh, right. Now I got it. Yeah, no. What does the Buddha say about moving away from painful situations or situations that are causing like a lot of emotional distress, rather than trying to deal with them, especially if they've been going on for like a long time? What's the Buddha's guidance in relation to that? Does that make any sense?
Yep, I understand. Okay, so it's important to understand that what's causing the emotional difficulties is not the situation itself. Whatever the situation is, that's not what's causing the internal feelings. It's within one's own mind that's causing these feelings. It's the cravings, the desires, the attachments. So just moving away from the situation isn't going to necessarily solve the problem, because the problem is inside your own mind. But that's not to say that there isn't certain situations that it would be wise to move away from. Because if you were, say, in a relationship where there's physical abuse or sexual abuse or things like this, it's wise to move away from those kinds of relationships. But if the mind is experiencing anger and stress and frustration or fear, as you mentioned, those feelings are actually being caused by the mind's own craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the wanting things to be a certain way. So if you can share a bit about an example, I can explain to you more specifically if you have a specific example.
It's like there have been specific examples, in like abusive situations, which, like me specifically and other people, there's that the idea that we should be able to deal with it, but when somebody's repeatedly getting sick from that situation and is clearly not dealing with it, is it then not better to move away from that situation if the situation's unresolvable?
Each situation's different. So that's why, if you could give me an example, can you tell me specifics?
Well, like abusive relatives then, where there's not the sort of financial or sort of not the capacity to move out of the situation, and there's a relative that is actively targeting everybody around him, is actively being abusive. Like, this is not hypothetical. Like, in my situation, we've repeatedly had the police out to an abusive relative, and he's so powerful within the community that nobody will touch him, and he's dangerous. Well, like my family are in that situation now. I can deal with it just about, but they can't. Well, like, I've removed myself from that situation because it was causing too much of a problem. But he's still there, he's still doing it, and they're still suffering. But like, from a Buddhist perspective, yes, they should be able to deal with it, but they're not dealing with him, and he's dangerous. What does the Buddha say about that?
Yeah, so you're just using the word abuse, but you're not giving me the details. Is it physical abuse, or what kind of abuse? Can you tell me specific situations and incidents?
He's threatening, like it's verbal threats. He's abusing animals. The animals are literally walking around dying. The smell is horrific. it's a chemical, like, I don't know if he got chemicals there, but it's burning people's throats. He's sneaking around people's houses at night. He is bizarre. He's probably borderline schizophrenic, actually. But, like, it's a long-term situation and it's been going on for a long time. A lot of his mates are getting abusive. They're damaging property. There's a whole load of things going on that are causing fear and causing distress.
Okay, so in these kinds of situations where someone's being verbally abusive and physically abusive, perhaps, the discontentedness that's being caused in the mind, it's not being caused by that person, but that doesn't mean that it's wise to stick around in those situations. So the Buddha's not teaching you that when someone's being verbally abusive or physically abusive, that you should stay in that situation. But what you need to be able to understand is just moving away isn't what's going to create the peace and the joy in the mind. But it sounds like in this situation, it would be wise to get as far away from this individual as possible, because when somebody's doing those kinds of things, those are very harmful to the individuals around them. So in this particular situation, it would be wise to move away, but then also one needs to train their own mind, understanding that the fear or the sadness or the stress or anxiety or whatever other feelings are within one's own mind. It's being caused by one's own mind. It's not being caused by this person. So just leaving away from that person doesn't actually solve the problem, but it would be wise to do that in this particular situation.
Thank you. I understand where you're coming from.
Let me give you an example so you can understand what I'm illustrating here. So I had a student one time when I shared with them, they were learning with me for a little while about how your mind causes your own discontentedness, that the mind's craving permanence. And I always invite students to let me know if they think that this isn't true. They can give me examples and I can help them to be able to see this. And one time a student said, hey, I went to work the other day and my house looked a certain way. And when I went to work, I was at work for 8 or 10 hours and I came home and my wife had this craft project all over the house and the house was a wreck. And when I walked in, I got frustrated and I got angry. How did my mind cause my own anger? Because my wife's the one who put all the stuff all over the house. Didn't she cause me to be angry because she's the one who put everything all over the house? And I answered them and I said, no, your wife didn't cause your anger. What caused your anger is you were craving for the house to look a certain way permanently. When you went away to work, the house looked a certain way and you had an expectation that it will always look that way. You had a wanting, a longing, and a yearning. And when you came home, it didn't look that way because your wife had her craft project out. And now when you walked in and you experienced that impermanence, your mind didn't like it. It struggled with that because the mind in the unenlightened state is craving permanence, but yet it lives in an impermanent world. So your house can't look that way permanently. But also with your wife's crafts project all over the house, that's not permanent either. She's going to put it away at some point. So if somebody said to me, like, my wife is abusing me because she won't keep the house clean the way that it is, that I want it to be clean, should I leave from my wife? And what I would reply to them is, it's not your wife that's causing your anger. She's not abusing you. All that's happening is your mind is craving permanence. You're going to need to learn to understand that this house is not permanent and that it's going to look different ways at different times. It can't look one particular way permanently. So each situation's a bit different. But in this situation, there's a lot of physical harm and maybe even verbal harm or verbal challenges that are going on there. So that's why in these kinds of situations, it's wise to move away from that because this individual is making a bunch of unwise decisions. But in this other situation that I gave you, this woman, the wife, she's not making any unwise decisions. All she's doing is choosing to have a craft project, and their partner wasn't comfortable with that because of the craving for permanence. So you need to be able to look at each situation and figure out what's wise and unwise through understanding the natural laws. The Buddha is not giving you a decision tree that says, if this happens, do this. And if this happens, do that. Because that would be, there's a permanent answer for every single situation. And there's too many variables in any one situation to say, if this happens, do that, right? Now, when we can look at a situation where someone's physically causing harm, yeah, we know to move away from that as soon as possible. But a lot of these other situations, there's too many variables involved. So moving to a higher consciousness where your mind is evolving and growing and developing is to gain wisdom of these natural laws and now make wise and conscious decisions about what you should or shouldn't be doing in any one given situation. So that way it leads to wholesome results, or wholesome karma is what we refer to it as. So does that help you? Yeah. Okay, good.
No, it seems to be working. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, and I don't know what you think about this, but do you think that people are put in situations in bad situations to push them on to better things? Like, do you think there's a place for use in bad situations to push a person on to better things? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we're not put in any situations. Any situations we're in, it's based on our own decisions.
Yeah, no situation is inherently bad. I know what you're going to say. I'm choosing to see that the situation is bad myself. Yeah, no, I know the answer to that before I ask the question. I think you've answered what I wanted to hear.
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Go on.
So we're not put in any situation. Any situation that we're in, it's from our decisions that led us to that particular situation. And now when we're in a particular situation, it's from our either wise decisions that is producing wholesome results, or it's from our unwise decisions that is producing unwholesome results. And when we look at the decisions that we made that led to any particular outcome, then we can cultivate wisdom to ensure that that situation doesn't keep reoccurring if it's an unwholesome situation. Or if it's a wholesome thing, then we can continue to make those kinds of decisions in order to ensure that those kinds of things continue to happen in our life. So the Buddha's teachings are all about you cultivating wisdom, making wise decisions in order to be able to produce more and more wholesome outcomes. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll only be experiencing wholesome results in your life. You won't be experiencing unwholesome things in your life. You'll experience all wholesome results, or wholesome karma, because you're only making wise decisions, because your mind is fully awake to the wisdom of the natural laws. But when you don't have wisdom of these natural laws, then you're going to make unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results. So the more wisdom you have of these natural laws, you'll be able to make wiser decisions. So nobody's putting you in any one particular situation. There's no such thing as a being that's controlling you or controlling the world. There's no entity that's controlling the world. There's no such thing as good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate. Everything you experience is a result of your decisions. And when you come to terms with that and you can understand that, that means if there's anything that you don't particularly care for in your life and you would rather not to occur, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom and make different decisions. And then you're going to experience different results. Whereas if it's everybody else that's causing the difficulties and struggles in your life, then you're locked in. You can't do anything. You can't fix anything. Or if it's destiny or fate, or if it's good luck or bad luck, you're locked in. You can't do anything. You can't fix anything about your life. But when you can come to terms with understanding that what you experience is a result of your decisions, then if there's anything you don't particularly care about or you would prefer not to occur in your life, just cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and then you will experience different results in your life. And this is the real power of learning something like the teachings of the Buddha, is that you start to understand that you're in complete control of your own life, and it's your own free will decisions that are going to lead to any particular outcomes. But when you lack wisdom of these natural laws, you have a lack of wisdom and you're unknowing of these natural laws, you'll inadvertently make unwise decisions that are leading to unwholesome results. And typically what we do in the unenlightened state is we blame other people for the things that we experience. And then as long as the mind's doing this, you're going to be trapped, because because you're never cultivating wisdom to make wise decisions that will lead to wholesome results. So each situation that you're having difficulties and struggles in, it's important to cultivate the wisdom in that situation so that then you can make better and better decisions that lead to better and better results.
Yeah, no, that answers my question and brings clarity to it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Ma'am, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's very reflective and thought-provoking. Thank you very much. I have two questions. First one is more specific. I have read a book called Nonviolent Communication. It's very similar to what you just mentioned, to see what causing our trouble and unwell feelings is what is not others, is what our feelings and our needs. And I'm thinking what the Buddha does in the end. Does he just dispel all his needs, or he has no needs in the end?
You say needs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we all have basic needs, right? We need food, water, clothing, shelter, medical care. These are the things that we need in order to sustain our life. If we didn't have food, water, clothing, shelter, and medical care, we wouldn't be able to sustain life. So at the end of the day, we all have basic needs, but it's when you want it and you long for it and you yearn for it that when you get what you want, you get happy. And when you don't get what you want, you get angry or sad or frustrated. So just a simple example, like if you notice that the body is having hunger pains in the stomach and you feel that pain, some people get grumpy when they feel hunger pains. And this is because the mind's craving permanent comfort. It's not biological. That if it was biological, that means every single person who got hungry would get grumpy. But what's actually occurring here in this situation is that the mind is craving for this permanent comfort of the body, not realizing that this body can't be permanently comfortable. It's not possible. So what the Buddha is teaching you is to walk towards your needs, your goals, your objectives, your interests, make wise decisions to acquire the things that you need, but understand that there's this impermanence in the world, that you're not always going to get what you want and what you expect. Right. So, for example, I'll give you guys a real world example. We're remodeling downstairs, and today was the day that it was supposed to, or yesterday it was supposed to be finished. It was supposed to be done. And today we had cleaners coming. We had people to come and clean the air conditioning in the space. And then tomorrow we have deliveries of furniture and supplies and all these things that are coming. Well, of course, impermanence happened and they're not done. They're going to still need to do a little bit of work today, and then it's going to need to dry tomorrow, and we're actually not going to be able to do what we planned today until Friday. Whereas if I wanted and I longed and yearned for it to be done today, I'd be angry, I'd be frustrated, I'd be irritated or annoyed. But I understand impermanence. So when I showed up today and the general contractor's here and said, hey, we're not going to be able to clean today, or the cleaning company isn't going to be able to clean today because we're not done. And I was like, okay, I understand. When can we do this? And I built in a buffer. I built in a whole week of a buffer because I knew impermanence, that there's no way that it was going to be able to be done on time. So I need to have a classroom. I have one right here, and downstairs it's going to be even nicer. But it's when you want it, when you long for it, when you yearn for it, that's where the problems come in. But also, if you were all the way on the other side, where you were dull and lethargic and you weren't really paying attention to the decisions that you're making in life, that's not going to be peaceful and joyful either there. So you need to be able to come to the middle where you can gradually work towards goals, objectives, or interests, but you're not longing and yearning for it.
Yeah, got it. Just want to know that if you got to the situation where you are like fully enlightened, do you have needs anymore, or are you craving? Are you still craving for anything?
Me, myself?
Yeah.
So my son's here. He comes with me every once in a while. He's off school. And I was teaching at a retreat in the USA in 2022. Mm-hmm. And they asked me, when is the last time you got angry? Uh-huh. Right? Because a person who's enlightened, they're not going to say, yes, I'm enlightened. because that's the first indication that they're not enlightened, because they're boastful, they're arrogant, they're prideful, and an enlightened being doesn't have that. So wisely at this retreat, instead of asking me like, are you enlightened? They asked me, when is the last time you got angry?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know, because it's been so long ago. And they said, well, what would your son say? Because if you're going to get angry, it's usually with someone who's close to you, because that's where your attachment is. And my son happened to be there, and he walked into the room. At that time, he was 9 years old. And I said, I don't know. He's right there. You can ask him. So in front of everybody, they asked him, when is the last time you saw your dad angry? And basically what he said was 2017. Right. So I haven't been angry since then. Back before that, yeah, I had anger and frustration and jealousy and all these other things that I teach you guys. But through the teachings of the Buddha, I've been able to train my mind to the point where now I don't experience those things any longer. And now what I do is I dedicate my life to helping you guys to understand how to accomplish this mental state that is described as enlightenment. But whether somebody considers me to be enlightened or not, that's a decision for them to make. But I wouldn't say that from myself. I wouldn't say I'm not enlightened, and I'm not going to say that I am enlightened. But if you ask me questions like this, like, you know, do you get angry? Do you get frustrated? Or when's the last time? These are questions that can help you to come to the decision for yourself of what you think. So an enlightened being isn't going to have cravings, desires, attachments, longing, yearning. But they're also not going to be over here where they're dull and lethargic and lackluster. But they will pursue goals, objectives, or interests, but they'll do that from the middle way as a goal, objective, or interest. They're not forming their inner feelings on this thing or not. So like this morning when I came in and the contractor was like, hey, we can't do the cleaning today. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what do we need to do here? What can we do? And we just talked it out calmly and we figured it out. The cleaning company showed up, the people were showing up, and we had to talk to each other and figure out, and we decided to postpone it till Friday. And everybody was completely peaceful and fine with that. Nobody was angry or upset, because we're not forming our inner feelings on this thing. This is called a conditioned feeling. This is why, like, if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside, you might get so happy and excited. But then when you see it's raining, you might get sad or frustrated. That's how you can see that it's not other people that are causing you to be angry or frustrated, because there's nobody even involved. It's just the sun. You look at the sun, you're happy. You see it's raining, you're sad. Or you look at your bank account balance and it's here and you're happy. And then when it goes here, you're sad or frustrated. That's how you can tell it's not your mom or your dad that's causing these feelings. It's within your own mind. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. And the second question is about how do we practice in our daily life? I guess most of us might be just coming back to our own ordinary lives and maybe work for 7-8 hours a day. And how do we know ourselves are progressing towards enlightenment? Is there any phrases or stages that we can identify ourselves we are developing?
Yes, as you're training your mind using the Eightfold Path, which is the core central teaching of the Buddha, this is the core central teaching that he shares. This is what you would be learning and practicing in your journey to enlightenment. And as you're learning and practicing this, you're gradually training your mind. You're eliminating more and more pollutions out of the mind. And as you're learning this and you're practicing it, you're going to see gradual improvement to the condition of the mind, that you'll notice what's called the jhanas. The jhanas are a preliminary phase that the mind goes through before you get to the first stage of enlightenment. So there's 4 individual stages of enlightenment, but before the first stage of enlightenment, you go through 4 jhanas. These are heightened qualities of the mind. They're enhancements of the mind. And you'll notice this. Even before you get to the jhanas, you'll notice improvement to the condition of the mind. So when we talk about enlightenment, it's not like a light switch where it's either on or off. It's not like you're working for 5 years and then one day, boom, you're enlightened. That's not the way it works. That's one of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha. People think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And all the way along the way, you'll see gradual improvement. So I've had some students as short as 2 days that they've been in a retreat with me, and they've come in on the 3rd day. And they said, I got an email this morning that I normally would have been so upset by. by and so frustrated by. But I got that email and I understood it. It's just impermanence, and my mind doesn't have to crave permanence. So even in 2 days, there's people that have seen improvement when you're learning the true teachings and you're training your mind this way. So there's going to be this gradual improvement. So the way you can think about it is like, like if there's the sun and then there's clouds in front of the sun, as the clouds start peeling away, the rays of the sun start to slowly shine through. And that's what you'll see is the mind in its natural state is enlightened. But then when you've got pollutions that are in the way, you're not going to be able to experience the qualities of enlightenment. But as you start peeling away those pollutions out of the mind, you're going to start seeing the qualities of enlightenment starting to shine through more and more and more as you're getting closer to enlightenment. And there's distinct phases that the mind goes through that you can identify through the jhanas and through the 4 stages of enlightenment, that you can see that you're making real tangible progress. But you'll even know that before you even get to the jhanas, because you'll see little situations like, whoa, I would normally get angry at that email and I didn't get angry. And now you can see that you're making progress. And that's one of the beauties about the teachings of the Buddha, is that it's not about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. You can see real tangible progress in this life.
Yeah, okay, I see. So just an add-on question. You mentioned there are some retreats in Thailand, and I'm thinking, can we practice by ourselves, or is there any other way we can do to maybe to improve our kind of sense of enlightenment?
Yeah, so there's only one type of individual that would be able to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides, and that's a Buddha. That's one of the qualities that makes a Buddha, and they're very rare in the world. So everybody else, you're going to need teachers and you're going to need guides. You're going to need people to help you. So that's what I provide guidance. It's kind of like a tour guide, and I'm providing you the resources like books and videos, podcasts, personal guidance, audiobooks, classes, courses, retreats. And I'm doing this all at no cost to be able to help you guys. Because it's like, if you discovered the cure to cancer, what would you do with it? Would you mass market it and try to get all kinds of money out of it, or would you give it away to people for free? So that's what I've done, is I've figured out these teachings and now I give it away for free. And what you do is you learn from a teacher, like a tour guide. The tour guide is pointing out to you the things you need to learn, but it's you that's doing all the individual work. So you're going to need to learn and grow and develop and incorporate these types of teachings into your day-to-day life, so that then you can actually be practicing the teachings. This is just a chart that shows like a summary, but behind this are actual words of the Buddha, where you can actually learn every single thing that he taught about each one of these steps. So like, for example, here's right speech. He's teaching you about how to speak in ways that are wise, that are not going to harm others. And we lack the wisdom of these in the unenlightened state. So we talk in ways that you think is the best way to talk, but then you feel like you have all the best intentions in the world. But when you talk to people, maybe it blows up on you. And now you have a conversation and you think that the problem is mom, or you think the problem is dad. But in reality, if you're not talking in the way that the Buddha taught you, you're going to have certain struggles and difficulties in your day-to-day life. So what he's teaching you is this cause and effect, or this action and result. And he's showing you that when you speak in wise ways, then you're going to have wholesome results in your day-to-day life. So these aren't rules or commandments that he's giving you. He's actually showing you this natural law. And then you learn it and examine it. You reflect on it to independently verify it, and you practice it. And this is where you'll see that it actually works in your day-to-day life. So you can learn these kinds of teachings and others that are now going to help you to do things like communicate in the world. As long as you're not communicating in this way, you're going to have conversations that are hostile and bitter and harsh and have difficulties in your relationships. But when you learn how to speak this way with everybody in your life, you're going to notice that your relationships really blossom, because you're not causing harm through your speech.
Yes. Much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome. Sir?
Yes, it works. Okay, so thank you for the wonderful speech and the meditation class. I've got actually 2 questions, but I think after listening to your explanations, I've come up with my own answer for my first question. So actually, my first question was, so as you mentioned, our mind was craving, yearning for permanence, etc. And we're doing meditation, trying to focus on the breath. I think that is the focus on the presence, the present moment. And does it mean that our mind is also, like, through this kind of training, yearning for the permanent moment of staying in the present moment? That is to say, we're like still training to yearn for those permanent moment of focusing on the breath, staying in the present, etc.
Okay, so when we talk about having the mind in the present moment, what we're talking about is focusing on a single object in the present moment. That doesn't mean that you never think about the past. It doesn't mean that you never think about the future. It means that you practice what's called singleness of mind, where, like, if you're washing dishes, you just focus on washing dishes. Or if you're in a business meeting, you just focus on the business meeting. But what the mind's going to want to do, because of its lack of training, is when you're washing dishes, it's going to want to daydream and think about all these other things. Or if you're in a business meeting, it's going to want to think about that trip to Thailand that you've got coming up, and it's going to get really excited to go to that trip, and you're not going to be able to focus on the business meeting. So being in the present moment isn't to crave permanence. It means to focus on a single object and do just one thing at a time. That's what it means when we say be in the present moment, is focus on a single object and just doing one task at a time.
Okay. Thank you. So now I got it. And my second question is, as that girl, she mentioned that can we, like, step by step by training or without professor guidance, we can, like, step into the sudden enlightenment. That is what we have read in many books or seen in many films. Because I've just this year read the book of Siddhartha from Hermann Hesse. And in that book that mentioned the monk, he after experiencing the material world, let's say, to drink and have fun everywhere, and after that he came to the river, met the fisherman, and the fisherman told him to stay along the riverside, listen to the river, because the river will speak to you. You have conversation with the river, etc. And after all those kind of, conversations and long time, he got enlightened finally. Yeah. Does it make sense? I mean,
yeah, this isn't true. You'll read all kinds of things like this, and it's just not true. That's not the way that one gets to enlightenment. There's no such thing as sudden enlightenment. It's not possible for that to occur. You can have sudden shifts in your consciousness, but it's not enlightenment. That's why the Buddha took 6 years to get to enlightenment, right? Because it takes gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can see it in the words of the Buddha. I can show you where he talks about gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And you know this to be true because everything you've ever experienced in life has been the same way. Like even being able to communicate in English, it's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Or some job or occupation that you have, whatever skill you have, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can't just instantly get to enlightenment. This is one of the biggest challenges in the world, is there's so much misinformation about the path to enlightenment that people aren't being guided in the way that's actually going to truly lead to enlightenment. So people are out there just believing a bunch of things rather than seeing the truth for themselves. So I've never read that book. I'm not here to say anything about that author specifically, but anybody who knows about enlightenment and who has actually attained enlightenment understands that it's not through listening to a river and it's not instantaneous. It's just not possible. If that was the case and that was true, that would have spread like wildfire and you'd have billions of people by that river trying to listen to that river. So it comes through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, it looks like Janae has a question online. Go ahead, ma'am.
So I have a question about permanence, which is, why does the mind crave permanence in the first place?
This is because of the mind's lack of wisdom. it's often referred to as ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality is the way I like to refer to it. It's the misunderstanding, the misperception. Because the mind lacks wisdom of the natural laws, it will continue to crave because it doesn't understand the universal truth of impermanence, for example. So because of its lack of wisdom, the mind continues to do this over and over and over again.
Okay, and then I have another question, which is, why does the mind find things to be agreeable and disagreeable?
That's because of the craving. When there's craving in the mind sees this as agreeable and it sees that as disagreeable. So like a food, you might find that chocolate is agreeable to you, or a sour lemon is disagreeable. And now when you have the agreeable, you feel happy and excited. And when you have the disagreeable, the mind pushes it away. That's all because of the craving, the desires, the attachments, the longing, the yearning. That's what is the mind's deciding what is agreeable and what is disagreeable. This particular odor is agreeable to me. This particular odor is disagreeable to me. And this is all because of craving, desire, attachment.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have some more questions? Oh, over there. I've lost track. There's a lot of mics around.
I just have a quick question. Actually, it's a build-up from a previous question just now. So I just want to check how do we differentiate between desire and goal?
Sure. If it's a true goal, that means that when you're working towards it through your wise decision making, that whether you accomplish that or not, you can maintain your contentedness and you can maintain your peacefulness. If it's a desire, meaning it's a longing or yearning, if you get what you want, you'll get happy. And if you don't get what you want, you'll be sad or frustrated. So some people are saying like, this is my goal, but then it's not really a true goal because they get happy when they get it and they get sad and angry when they don't get it. That's a craving, desire, attachment. That's wants and expectations, longing, yearning. So if it's a true goal and you're working towards it, you can maintain your peacefulness and your joy regardless. So if you get 80% of the way to it and you're like, I didn't get to my goal. Okay, let me see what I need to do here. And now you can just work through and problem solve that. Maybe what you'll do is you'll say, oh, you know what? To get to this goal, I just need to extend my timeline. Let me just extend my timeline and then I can work towards this goal and actually achieve it. Or maybe I need to add resources. Maybe I need to add something to the project and then I can actually accomplish this goal. Or, you know what? Maybe the 80% is fine. I don't need to go any further than this. I can just go to the 80% and I'm done here. Even though my original plan was to go 100%, I'm just completely fine with the 80% and I don't need to go any further. So if it's a true goal, you're not going to be basing your feelings on that thing or not. But craving, desire, attachment, that's going to produce conditioned feelings.
So, in other words, if I'm not enlightened or I'm not in the progress of being enlightened, it is possible for me to attach my desire towards the goal.
Well, what's going on is the mind is thinking that this is a goal, but in reality, it's truly a craving, desire, attachment. It's not a true goal. What I'm describing as a true goal is something that you wisely work towards with wise decision making, and you don't form your inner feelings based on that. So with the mind being unenlightened and lacking training, you will have cravings, desires, attachments, and you might call it a goal. But in reality, it's a craving, desire, attachment. This is the problem with the unenlightened mind, is it lacks wisdom, and it will call this thing a goal, when in reality, it's a craving, desire, attachment.
Okay, I think I get it now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, David, thank you for the lesson. What would the teachings tell us about a wise use of technology, particularly social media, that is in line with the teachings, that won't interfere or maybe even help us on our journey to enlightenment?
Yeah, so during the lifetime of the Buddha, social media didn't exist, but he taught us right speech. right? So we might think about this as right communication, because during the lifetime of the Buddha, that's all there was speech. So he taught this guidance based on the natural laws of how to communicate with people in wise ways. And while it was just speech during his lifetime, we can look at this and apply it to all aspects of our communication, whether it's an email, a social media post, a text message, a voicemail, or any of these other things. We would like to be sure that we're practicing right speech in all these situations. And social media, in my opinion, is excellent for us because we can reach out and be in contact with so many people. Back when we were growing up as kids, it was basically just the people right around you that you had access to. Where nowadays you can reach out to the wider world and you can share and communicate with lots of people. But if you're doing it without the right speech from the teachings of the Buddha, you're going to be doing it in ways that is potentially harmful. And now you're going to see bitterness and hostility and harshness. So this is why sometimes people like to gang up, not that you're doing this, but some people like to gang up on, Facebook or Instagram or some of these other social media platforms and think that they're all bad and they're all wrong. But the social media platform isn't doing anything other than providing a town square, so to speak. It's the individual people who are choosing to interact there that are creating any kind of environment that's happening there. So it's not the companies that are necessarily doing anything malicious. It's the individual people who are choosing to communicate in unwise ways. So we can choose to communicate in healthy ways and wise ways, but with most of the world lacking wisdom of these natural laws, oftentimes what you see in social media is a lot of bitterness and harshness and hostility there. But social media can be a great mechanism to be able to reach an audience. So like right now, I'm live streaming all over the world and people can see this all over the world, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, you had to be living right next to him in that vicinity to be able to learn with him, where nowadays we have technology to be able to reach the wider world. So it can be used for benefit. But of course, there's some people who are using it in harmful ways as well. And that's where your wisdom comes in, right? Because there's sometimes scammers online, and you got to pay attention to that because they're going to be playing towards your cravings, right? There's all kinds of scams out there, but they're basically trying to make it so that your craving makes it so that you will be able to get scammed, right? So there's these different things now that we can interact with a wide audience. This is great, but now we need to be able to make wise decisions that as we're interacting with this wise audience or this wider audience, that we're doing it in a wise way.
Thank you. And then in terms of the consumption side of the social media, like would the teachings advise us to completely say avoid interacting with like violent images or nonsense or a lot of things you see where people are being humiliated, kind of just negative type stuff? Would it recommend to just avoid it completely, to view it and then understand what it is? I think it's probably different now than in the time of the Buddha, like how much inputs we have coming into us all the time, and then how we choose to interact with it, avoid it, manage it.
Yeah. So this is one of those questions. You guys can turn off your mics. Yeah. This is one of those questions where it really all depends. In terms of your journey to enlightenment, it oftentimes makes sense to go away from those things. Because if you have a craving in your mind, like say you have a craving to see all children be safe. And now when you see children being abused and you see these images on social media, you get really angry, really frustrated about this. Well, initially, in order to get rid of that craving, you're going to need to distance yourself from that. And that's where you might go away from these kind of images and this kind of content for an extended period of time, and train your mind to not crave and long and yearn for every single child to be safe. Even though that's a great aspiration to have, it's when you crave and long and yearn for it that it causes the problems. So you might need to distance yourself from that for a period of time. Then once you realize that your craving is probably gone, you would like to test your mind and see. So you would like to look at some of that stuff in order to see if it triggers any craving in your mind. This is the only way you'll know if it's actually gone or not. So on your way to enlightenment, you're going to need to distance yourself from a lot of this stuff. But then at some point, you might start kind of reintroducing it, because you can't eliminate never seeing that kind of thing. You're going to see it occasionally. So once you've distanced your mind from it, you're pretty confident that the craving's gone. You kind of slowly reintroduce it, test the mind, challenge the mind. And now when you have confidence that the craving's gone, now if you're just searching social media and you happen to run across an image of a child being abused, you're not disturbed by it. The mind isn't frustrated or angry or stressed or having anxiety and things like that. Yep.
Hello. Hi.
Yep.
This is Emma. Thanks for sharing. May I ask, what's your understanding of why we come to this world? What's the meaning of life in Buddhism and in your own understanding? Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a common question that now, particularly in modern world, we're like, what's our purpose here? You're like, why are we here? Right? What I would say is there is no purpose, right? There's these beings that we're all just coming back into the world over and over and over again. And people continue to, as what the Buddha described as roaming and wandering through the cycle of rebirth. That we fill up our time with hobbies and activities and work and social relationships. And those things are oftentimes very fun, particularly when you get to enlightenment. Everything you're doing is actually fun and enjoyable. But there really isn't any true purpose for us to be here. If you go back to like cave person times, like prehistoric human beings, those individuals, if you ask them like, what are you guys doing here? They're not going to say, oh, we're trying to find our purpose in life, right? During prehistoric times, those people were just looking to survive. What can we eat? What can we use for clothing? How can we keep ourselves warm? What kind of shelters can we build? How can we learn to communicate with each other? They were just trying to figure out life. They weren't the biggest, baddest creature in the world. They had creatures that were more significant than they were, and they were just trying to live in this world and figure out a way to sustain their life. That's all that prehistoric human beings were doing. Nowadays, we've gotten to the point where we have systematize so many things that it's no longer a struggle for us to exist in the world. We can get food at the snap of a finger. We can get clothing at the snap of a finger. We can get all the things that we need, basic necessities like water and all these things at the snap of a finger. We have easy access to them because as a human population, we've come together wisely to systematize these things to make it really easy. But now we've got so much time in our life that you might sit around or people might sit around and just kind of search social media, since we're talking about that, YouTube, things like this. And it's just like, gosh, what do I have? There's nothing going on in this world. Like, what do I really have going on in this world where we have all this exorbitant amount of time because we don't have to walk to the well, 2 or 3 times a week, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they had to walk to the well 2 or 3 times a week and fill up troughs at their house just to have water. For us, we just walk over and turn a spigot and boom, we have water instantly. So we have dominated this planet so much that we have all this time available to us that oftentimes people sit around and wonder, what is our real purpose here? Because everything's already essentially been figured out. But there's a lot of new things that we can do. There's a lot of interesting things that we can do. I would say that there's really no purpose for us here whatsoever. There's nothing here for us whatsoever. But that's not to say that that's a pessimistic view. That's just to allow the mind to understand that there's ego in there. What ego is this arrogance and this pride, this boastfulness. Instead of the mind thinking like, what's my purpose on this earth? Instead, just realize that you're just like everybody else. We're all equal. If you look at an ant colony of 100,000 ants, each of those ants are just doing whatever work that they need to do in order to sustain the life of the colony. But what we do in the unenlightened state as human beings is we have this ego and we think that there must be some significance, there must be some importance to my life here, when in reality there's not. You're just one of 8 billion people that inhabit this planet. And the more that we get comfortable with there is no purpose here, that then we can get to the real goal of this life, which is to get to enlightenment. And if you can set your goal as getting to enlightenment, now as you're working towards enlightenment and you're training your mind to be peaceful and joyful, you can get to the point where you've eliminated your ego and you're no longer looking for a purpose to this life, but instead you're just living a very enjoyable, very wonderful life because you've created that life for yourself. But as long as the mind is sitting around and looking for someone else to tell me what is my purpose or what is the significance of life, then the mind's still got ego and it's still sitting there looking for what is my significance instead of getting rid of that ego, which will help you to get to the peace and joy. So it's the path to enlightenment that could be each person's individual goal. And now by getting to the path to enlightenment and getting more and more enlightened, you'll create the most ideal, most perfect life for yourself that you'll enjoy every single aspect of your life. You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Hello. Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're sitting right in front of the speaker.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna move a little bit. Hello. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and ask you a question. Do we have something like, I'm asking you, not what the Buddha said. Do we have a free will?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so basically everything that we experience is based on our decisions. So like where you're sitting, how many cushions you have, your hairstyle, your clothes, whether you have facial hair or not, whether you ate breakfast this morning or not, what you ate for breakfast this morning, the fact that you're sitting here at this temple, all these are your own free will decisions. And if anybody sees it any other way, then that means that they're being controlled by something or somebody. And as long as you resign yourself to that, then you lose control of your own ability to cultivate wisdom, make wise decisions, and improve your life. So the Buddha talks about free will. He doesn't use that language, but he essentially teaches you that you have free will and that everything that you experience is a result of your decisions. And now your goal, or your purpose, is to be able to cultivate as much wisdom as you can during this life, and now train your mind more and more to make wise decisions, and now you experience exclusively wholesome results.
Do we not make decisions by the conditioning how we are? Like the experience we had. Mm-hmm. If we had a little bit different kind of experience, I would probably make another decision, for example, sitting here. Mm-hmm. So what I'm asking myself, if there's a free will, could be a relative term for myself because all the experience I made through all my life till now. Mm-hmm. That's a reason why I'm asking myself if there's a really free will.
Yeah, it's free will. It's still a decision that you're making. Whether you make that decision based on one particular experience that you've had or another, that's your experience, or what some people refer to as conditioning. But you still, at the end of the day, have free will. It's your decisions. So what the path to enlightenment is all about, among other things, is to purify your mind so that you eliminate that conditioning, so that you don't have conditioning. So like, for example, if you grew up like I did, in a harsh environment where there's yelling and hollering and screaming and, things like this, and when you get what you want, you're so happy, but then when people don't do what you want, you yell and holler and scream at them. Your mind might be conditioned like that, like mine was when I was younger. So I learned growing up that if somebody doesn't do something you want them to do, you yell and holler at them and you put pressure on them until they do it your way. Well, that's conditioning. But at the end of the day, that person's still making their own free will decisions. They're choosing to be bitter and harsh and hostile, where someone could make the choice to train their mind, learn the wisdom that doesn't work. And now they'll make different decisions. They'll make more informed, wiser decisions that are leading to wholesome results. So whether you're making decisions through conditioning or pollution of mind, or whether you're making decisions through a pure mind, that's a choice that you're making. At the end of the day, it comes down to your free will. There's nothing and nobody that's controlling you of what you should or shouldn't be doing. But yes, if your mind is got conditioning, which all unenlightened minds do, you're going to be making decisions through that conditioning. But that conditioning is a choice that you're making. You've chosen to adopt that type of thinking in your mind, where you can purify the mind and make wiser and wiser decisions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I hope this question makes sense, but if a person is practicing Buddhism and has experienced deep happiness and peace about its teaching, what would Buddhism say about them implementing the ideas of Buddhism onto others, but their intention is to share the happiness and peace?
Yeah, there's no part of the teachings of the Buddha where you're putting it onto somebody else. There's no part of this path that is about you propagating the teachings to other people or pushing the teachings onto other people. You can't actually make somebody else happy. It's not possible. The happiness that they're experiencing is conditional happiness. If someone gets happy because I gave them $10, their happiness is conditional, that because I gave them $10, they're now happy. But if I don't give them $10, then they're not happy any longer. So that means their mind is attached to the money, and their mind is attached to me giving them that money, and they can only be happy if I give them that money. What you would like to get to in the enlightened mental state, which is what the Buddha is teaching you to do, and focusing on your own mind and training your own mind, is you like to be happy no matter what. If you get $10, you are already happy before you got $10. And then if somebody doesn't give you $10, you can be happy with that too. That your happiness isn't contingent on any particular thing. That's the way that the teachings of the Buddha are guiding you. And it all comes down to your training of your mind. The peacefulness and joy that you get to within your own mind, it's not about teaching other people to do things your way. A person who's enlightened, they can live in the world amongst other people who might be angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed, but that person themselves, the enlightened being, is going to be happy and peaceful and joyful because their mind isn't basing their feelings on other people. So where sometimes people like to go out into the world and try to convince other people to do something specific, the teachings of the Buddha aren't that way. The teachings of the Buddha are about you training your mind and you getting to peace and joy, being unattached to having to form your feelings on what somebody else is or isn't doing. As long as you're forming your feelings on what other people are doing, the mind is unenlightened because it can only be happy if these particular things are happening. And if those things aren't happening, then you can't be happy. So that means your happiness dwindles. It becomes less and less and less. This is why some people, when they get old and grumpy. But you don't have to be old and grumpy. But if you know somebody who's like that, or if you're noticing that about your own mind, that's because the mind has all these wants and expectations. And if you get this and this and this and this and this and this and this, then you'll be happy, right? So that means the amount of happiness you can have dwindles. It becomes less and less. But when you get rid of this conditioning of the mind, when you get rid of these expectations and these wants and trying to convince other people to do things a certain way, you can just be happy all the time. And that's what the Buddha is guiding you to do. And that all comes down to you training your mind, not trying to convince other people to do anything specific. You have a question?
So the real goal is needed to be something like get enlightenment or purify the mind. Something like not specific thing would be better. Or if you have something like your real goal, or please tell me like.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest for everybody in terms of a purpose in life, or what is our real goal here. Is you should set your goal to get to enlightenment. Because if you're setting your goal to get to enlightenment, everything will be wonderful in your life by the time you get to enlightenment. It's because it's kind of like this conditioning, this pollution of mind. It's kind of like looking out at the world through a dirty window. And if you look out through the dirty window, the world looks very dirty. It looks very horrible, very miserable, right? But if you get to enlightenment, which is eliminating this conditioning, purifying the mind, it's like cleaning the window. And now you look out at the world and it's like, wow, this is great, because you understand the world. But when you live in a world that you don't understand, when you don't understand the natural laws, you'll struggle and you'll have difficulties. So if you set your goal or your purpose in life is to get to enlightenment, then you'll create the most ideal life for yourself because you're cleaning off your window. And now you can look out at the world and see all the wonderful things about the world. Of course, you understand that there are certain challenges and difficulties in the world, but you won't be forming your feelings based on those things. So like, for example, in the unenlightened state, if it's peaceful in the world, you'll be happy. But then when a war breaks out, you might be angry or sad or frustrated. An enlightened being sees the war. They know that the war is happening, but they don't form their feelings based on that. And they can maintain their peace, they can maintain their joy, regardless of whether there's a war in the world or not. But an unenlightened being won't be able to do that.
So purifying is just basement, or for, how can I say, to enjoy or clear my life. It means.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you fully.
Already. So purifying or the mind is the basement for like enjoying or finding the real goal. You mean?
Yeah, if you purify your mind, meaning you have uprooted all these pollutions, you won't experience any anger and sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings. So that's like, in my opinion, you should be doing that. You should be purifying the mind and working in the path to enlightenment, along with having a job and having friends and hobbies and activities and all the other things that you're doing in life. You also have a certain amount of time and attention that you're applying towards training your mind and getting to enlightenment. And now you're creating the most ideal life for yourself. But you're still working, you're still having hobbies and friends and all these other things. You're just doing that now in relationship to the natural laws that you have learned. So for example, connecting back to the gentleman who asked the first question, if you didn't understand these natural laws, you might be out in the world making friends, maybe boyfriend, girlfriend, co-workers, people like this, and you might be making all kinds of unwise decisions about who to interact with and who to spend time with. And now you look around and your life feels horrible because you've made all these unwise decisions to associate with people who are into unwholesome things. But that came from your decisions of the types of people that you're interacting with. What you would like to be able to get to is where you understand these natural laws. And one of the things that you do is you pay a lot of attention to who you decide to involve in your life, making wise decisions without judging them, without looking down on them, but making wise decisions about who to involve in your life. What type of life partner would you like to have? What kind of friends? What kind of job would you like to work at? Because these are the kinds of things that are going to lead to you associating with people who are into wholesome things. That's not what's going to ultimately lead to your peace and your joy. You need a certain amount of that, but you also need to be training your own mind. So if you're building your life with a lack of wisdom of these natural laws, you're going to build a house of cards and your life's going to crumble, or you're going to have like really difficult time in life because you've surrounded yourself with a bunch of hostility and bitterness. Or you can learn about these natural laws, make wise decisions about the type of life that you create, and now you've got a very solid and stable life, and now you've got lots of wholesome friends and people around you, and you're just enjoying life immensely. But it still comes down to you training your mind. You won't get to peacefulness by just selecting certain friends to be around. You can't create a bubble and then live within that bubble. You're welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Well, here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for all of your answers. It inspired me a lot. I have one question. Sometimes I didn't sleep well. Like, for example, if I have an important presentation next week, and maybe this week I didn't sleep well. I just want to ask, do you have any suggestions for me?
Yeah, this comes down to craving, desire, attachment too. What we've been talking about just a little bit is that the mind's longing, yearning. It's wanting to perform in a certain way. And now the mind becomes obsessive, thinking about that situation in the future. And now in the present moment, you can't be peaceful and you can't be joyful because the mind is longing, yearning, and having this craving for something to happen in the future, where you need to be able to understand impermanence, where the mind is going to experience whatever it unenlightenment experiences, and you make wise decisions towards whatever it is that you're going to be doing next week. But there's no way for me to teach you in 2 minutes or 3 minutes how to solve that problem. The craving, desire, attachment is solved through this eightfold path. And I taught this on Sunday, where you learn each of these 8 steps. And it's been recorded many times. It's in our books and in our audiobooks and things like this. So you would need to learn this so that you can train your mind to be able to knock down the craving, desire, attachment. One of the small things that you can be doing now is learning meditation and how to focus on the breath. And when your mind is on the breath, when it moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. You would like to be doing this daily. Like the same way you clean the body every day, you need to clean the mind every day. If you're only cleaning the body right now, you're not really addressing this full being. There's this other aspect, which is the mind. But oftentimes we don't grow up learning how to clean the mind. We grow up learning how to clean the body. So if you learn how to clean the mind, which meditation will help you to do that, but you need these other teachings as well, you'll be able to cut off and let go, cut off and let go. So as you're falling asleep and your mind starts thinking about that presentation a week from now, you'll be able to cut that off and let it go. You'll be able to get sleep, no problem. But right now, because you haven't exercised your mind, you haven't fully developed it, you're not going to be able to do that easily. But this is something that you can start doing. If you were here when we did our meditation this morning, that first little part and the last little part, we were just focusing on the breath and we were cutting off and letting go and bringing the mind back to the breath. That's what you would like to be doing on a daily basis. So that then when you're falling asleep at night and you see your mind roaming and wandering, you can cut that off and bring it back and you can easily fall asleep. And this is what will help you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So I think my question is also about like how can we reach this kind of peaceful state? So I think like when I reflect on myself, I'm a very grumpy person, and luckily I'm so young, so I don't want to be like old and grumpy. But like,
young and grumpy.
Yeah. So maybe you can like give some suggestions. So I have like some, I think, scenarios. I think a lot of people might also relate to it. One is like when you just walk on the street, like someone just blocked you, like in front of you, like, and you can't just find a way to get in front of them. Like, when like this happened to me, I'm always like, oh, this is so annoying. And then another thing is like when you walk into like 7-Eleven, like when you are waiting in the lanes to check out and you realize that the lane you pick is not the fastest, like you see like people checking out 30 items before you in their basket and you're like, oh, why the hell did I choose this lane in front of like the other lanes? Like things like this. And I think it's exactly about like how like my emotions are formed on the things that I cannot control. And yeah, I wonder, because I know that other people might not be like annoyed by these things, and why am I annoyed? Why am I triggered like by this? And what would you suggest to do next time when I run into this?
Yeah, this is craving, desire, attachment. It's all the same thing. The mind's longing, yearning. I want to walk on this sidewalk in a certain way. And if it's done my way, I'll be happy. But as soon as I experience some impermanence, meaning somebody's walking in front of me or somebody's walking too slow, I'm not getting what I want. That's what the mind's doing, is having craving, desire, attachment. Same thing when you're in line at 7-Eleven, is the mind wants to go, right? The mind's longing, yearning. So the breathing mindfulness meditation is going to help you with that. The generosity is going to help you with that, but you need this whole path. You wouldn't be able to just do one thing and fix that. You're going to need to train your mind to not have this longing, yearning, this craving for permanence. So if you'd like to learn, you would need to learn this. And we have books, we have audiobooks, videos, podcasts, classes, courses, retreats. It's not a quick fix, right? It's a gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, but it is a permanent solution. By the time your mind gets to enlightenment, it's physically impossible for you to ever experience any of those discontent feelings ever again. Your mind won't regress. It won't go backwards. So it's kind of like climbing a mountain. Normally you have to walk back down. You get up there, you did all that work, you're enjoying the view, you're enjoying the fresh air, and now you got to come back down. But enlightenment isn't that way. You do this apply this effort and this work to get to the top of the mountain, and you get to stay there and enjoy the fresh air and the view for the rest of your life. So if anybody is interested in experiencing that, this is the path of how to do that. You just need to gradually learn it and grow and develop. And we have various courses and retreats and recordings and all these things, even personal guidance that's available for you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So it seems like I have a long way to go. Maybe I'll join your trainings.
Yeah, there's a training each week, each month, where it's the first full week of every month. You get a foundation Monday through Friday from 9 to 3. But then there's also the Sunday classes, because you guys are traveling. You might decide to attend on Sundays, where I teach little by little each Sunday. So you can do it here in Chiang Mai, but you can also join by live stream too. There's students all over the world who study.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
And also, do you think like some people are born to be this kind of personality? Like if I'm born to be like impatient or grumpy, after I work on this, can I be as peaceful as the people who are born to be patient?
You're not born in any particular way.
Because I decided
you're not predisposed to having any particular personality, but based on how you grow up and the conditioning of your mind, you will adopt whatever is going on around you. Your mind will be conditioned to think a certain way, to function a certain way. So probably if you look in your family, people are pretty impatient, right?
Maybe not as much as me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they have some level of impatience.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is usually something you grow up with, and you've conformed to what's going on around you. What culture are you from? Chinese culture. Yeah. Oftentimes there's a lot of impatience in Chinese culture. Go, 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 go. It happens in other cultures too. It's not just Chinese culture. And it's all based in craving, desire, attachment. But when we're born, we do have certain pollutions in our mind, but we have a fairly blank slate. Like we don't go into the nursery at the hospital hating other babies. We learn to hate. That's a learned thing that comes into the mind, and it gets polluted and conditioned that way. So your mind has learned to be impatient, and it's based on your cravings, desires, attachments. So you weren't predisposed to be this way. It's just what your mind has adopted as its conditioning. But you can purify that, and you can learn to be patient. It's just something that you haven't trained to do yet.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Aditi from India, and I'm so glad I was able to attend your session. Thank you for your insights. I just want to understand your perspective on wealth, because I love money, because I'm able to travel, I'm able to meet my friends, and I'm able to attend your session in person. So how do we strike a balance between wanting wealth creation and abundance and that peace of mind? Because money gives me that peace of mind. I'm able to lead a comfortable life. So just wanted to know your perspective. Yeah.
Sure. So let me just explain a few of the words that you've used so far, because it's important to understand what these words mean, because we oftentimes describe things in ways that isn't actually true. So when we say like, I love chocolate, somebody doesn't actually love chocolate. They have a craving, desire, attachment for chocolate, right? And when they get chocolate, they're happy. And when they don't get chocolate, they're angry or sad. So you can't actually love an inanimate object like money. You can't love money, because love, when you understand what love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, loving someone as they are. You can love a being, but you can't love an object like money or chocolate or something like that. So what you're basically saying to me is that I crave money. I have a longing, yearning for money. When I have money, I'm happy. But when I don't have money, I'm sad or I'm frustrated. So this is a craving, desire, attachment. So you would like to be able to let go of that and come to the middle, where you're gradually working towards wealth creation, but you're not forming your inner feelings based on that. Because if you chase after money, you're only going to be able to be happy when you get it, and when you don't have it, you'll be frustrated. But if you're all the way on the other side, where you could care less about money, and you're not really attending to what it is that you need in the world, you're not going to have food and clothing and shelter and medical care and things like this. So you need to be able to come to the middle where you can gradually and wisely work towards your goals and objectives around money, but you don't actually form your feelings on that. And this comes through training as well. And that comes through the Eightfold Path. So this is what you'll need to be able to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Dong Mei, and I have a question similarly to hers. So my question is about, because when you say the happiness is not about winning, it's about the process. So if I exchange winning into the word achieving, because I would love to use achieving versus winning, I'm considering achieving is a motivation or it's a goal. Without achieving, sometimes my question is how to, the mankind.
The batteries went out. I can't hear you. We have some more mics around.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah. So without achieving, how can human
how can humans be happy without achievements?
Yeah, and how to get that motivation.
Okay, so there's something called conditional happiness. Conditional happiness is the mind is going to be happy based on some condition. If I get this thing, I will be happy. The mind will be happy. This is unsatisfactory because the mind will get that happiness based on that condition. But when that condition changes, because it will change, because everything is impermanent, then that means your happiness is going to change too. That's why your happiness, it arises, it changes, and it fades away. Because if you get happy because you bought this brand new car, when this car isn't brand new anymore, you're not going to be happy. So as long as the mind keeps forming conditional happiness, which is what it does in the unenlightened state, you're going to ultimately end up in sadness and frustration and agitation and annoyance. What you would like to be able to do is get to unconditional happiness, where there doesn't need to be any condition met in order to be happy. So if you can only be happy when you get a college degree, then that happiness is only going to last temporarily, and then it's going to fade away. So the way that you get motivation without having craving, desire, attachment is you make wise decisions. You make wise decisions towards accomplishing your goals, objectives, or interests, but your ultimate goal isn't to get to those pleasant feelings. That's what the mind's trying to do in the unenlightened state, is trying to get to those pleasant feelings of happiness, excitement, elation, so it will chase after things. And then if you get what you want, you're happy. But then if you don't get what you want, you'll be sad or angry or frustrated. So you need to retrain the mind and basically transform it, where it's not basing its inner feelings on whether you accomplish this thing or not, but you can still have energy and enthusiasm and ambition to work towards something, but not because of your wanting pleasant feelings. So for example, I'm very motivated to come here and share the teachings of the Buddha with all of you. But I don't have a craving for it. I don't expect it. I don't long for it. I don't yearn for it. But I'm very interested in doing so. So when I first started out teaching here, I would sometimes show up and there would be nobody here because nobody knew I was teaching, right? So I would show up and not even one person would show up because I just started teaching, right? But I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I wasn't frustrated because I knew it was just a matter of time, if I kept teaching, that eventually more and more people would learn about what I'm doing. So now every time I show up, there's like 60, 80 people here that are interested in learning. But it wasn't like that from the very beginning. You know, there were times where it wasn't like that. So if I formed my inner feelings on whether I have 80 people here or whether I have no people here, then that means sometimes I'm going to be happy and sometimes I'm going to be sad. But if you train your mind to not have that, where you just gradually work towards a goal or objective or interest, you can maintain your peacefulness and your joy no matter what. Whether there's one person here or 10 people here or 80 people here, you can just maintain your joy. So you get your motivation and your enthusiasm from making wise decisions, and you realize like, hey, this thing that I'm doing is very important, and I would like to be able to offer that to other people. And now you just gradually make wise decisions towards being able to offer that to other people. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's all the... Oh, you got another question?
So, yes, a very quick question. So, I've heard or been told from books and films that so the true goal from Buddhism is that to attach your true goal to the, let's say, common benefit of all the human being. That is to say, to bring joy and peace to others. That is the higher level of life meaning, let's say. Because in the real world, we're trying to find meanings for our life, trying to find a true goal, as we've mentioned. And we wanted to attach our personal goal to that kind of higher level, let's say, not for individual personal pleasure or joy of from what we're doing, but trying to dig deep into that kind of things we're doing, to attach it to like we can bring benefits and peace and joy to others. That could, let's say, have a more everlasting peace and to us.
That's not true.
That's not true.
No, that's not true. As soon as you are trying to bring joy to other people, that's conditional happiness, right? So I can't make my son happy. I can teach him how to be happy, but I can't make him happy. If I'm making him happy, then that means he's basing his feelings on me. And when he's got me around, he's happy. But when I'm not around, he's not happy. That's an attachment. Your mind is now attached. So if you attach your goals to other people and you're trying to make other people happy, then that means they can only be happy when you're around. They can't be happy when you're not around. So what you would like to do is you would like to work on your mind. That's what this whole path is about. It's not about trying to convince other people to do something. It's not about trying to make other people happy. This path is about you getting to happiness, you getting to unconditional happiness. And you do that through training of your mind.
What about sharing the music? I mean, play music together in an orchestra group? Mm-hmm. What about that kind of joy? And
that's conditional happiness.
That's also conditional happiness.
Yeah, because when I hear the music, I'm happy. And when I don't hear the music, I'm not happy. That's conditional. So when I listen to music, I appreciate the artistry of the music. And I know it, like, wow, that sounds really great. And when I hear the music, wow, that's wonderful. But when I'm not hearing the music, still, wow, that's wonderful too. Just sitting here in silence and hearing nothing, that's wonderful too. Right? But if you have a craving, you can only be happy when you hear the music. So if somebody gets happy because of the music, that's conditional happiness. And they can only be happy when they hear that music. Mm-hmm. Or when they have money, or when they have a car, when they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or something like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So as you guys see, I just let you guys come and go as you please. You know, the class is impermanent. Whatever you guys got while you were here is what you got. I just answer questions for whoever has questions for as long as you guys would like to ask questions. If you guys would like to learn more, there's classes and courses where I really walk you guys through, helping you to understand the path to enlightenment, where today is just a free-form question day. So if you'd like to learn more, you might decide to come in on Sundays or Wednesdays or some of the classes and courses and retreats, and you can find access to those on our website. You'll be able to see what we offer, and you can get access to all the books and everything else as well. So thank you guys for being here, and perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.